Hey, everybody, it's Jeremy Sutton. Welcome to the podcast. I'm here with Josh Forti, the man himself, and we're going to be talking about some business things, some book recommendations, whatever he wants to talk about. Josh, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely, man. Thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too, man. So, Josh, I have to tell you before we get started, I've been watching you do these lives, and I see your background with the flag and the Think Different theory. And I'm like, man, I got to sit down one night and order my background like that because I've got like my Louisiana Tech flag blanket actually.
Yeah.
And I gotta step my game up with that, man. I love your background.
So I'll tell you one thing, and I appreciate that. Thank you. I get a lot of compliments on it. The one negative side of my backdrop is that when I do solo episodes for Think Different Theory, there's too much text and Facebook flags it when I run Facebook ads, and it'll say too much text in your background. And so they limit my reach whenever I run ads to it. So I'm telling you, I got to figure out a workaround for that. But other than that, it's pretty sick.
Perfect. Well, I'll just do a logo, no text then.
There you go.
Perfect, man. Awesome, Josh. Well, hey, listen, so the premise of this podcast, it's called Entrepreneur Rising. So basically, 4 years ago, I bought a physical therapy clinic. My wife and I did. It really wasn't on the up and up. We ended up, we're not able to make a profit, had to file bankruptcy. We got sued twice.
My word.
Once by my former friend who we bought it from. And so now I'm working full time again as a physical therapist in a hospital, and I'm building my online business, helping people self-publish books. And so what I want to do is talk to other entrepreneurs who may or may not have struggled and who are building a successful business, and just one, gain knowledge for myself, and then two, knowledge for the audience. So with that said, man, I'd love to hear kind of how you started out along this journey, from where you were to where you came from to where you are now.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll back up. I grew up, I was born in Wisconsin. At age 1, I moved to the suburbs of Los Angeles. My dad and mom lived out there. My dad worked for his brother out there for 10 years. At age 11, my mom and dad were like, we're done with LA. We hate the city. So they sold the house, and they packed all 8 of us kids into the back of an RV, and we started driving across country. And so we had no idea where we were going. We were gonna probably head to Vermont, I think was kind of the goal. But we ended up stopping in Indiana I have no idea why. My parents found a church there, and they've been there ever since. They still go to that church to this day, 14, 15 years later, which is super cool. But from there, I grew up on a farm. And so hard work, homeschool family, 8 kids. I was the second oldest of everybody there. And so I learned hard work, and I had this, I say misconception now. I mean, there is truth to it, but like that, the only way to make a lot of money was to work really, really hard. And that hard work was physical work. And that's the only type of hard work that there is, that, mental work, that didn't take that into consideration. And so long story short, I ended up getting a job outside of high school. Well, I ended up starting a company outside of high school. Did not work out as a farming company, business partners, wife divorced him, went belly up. Like my whole life savings was poured into this. This was my dream, my future, and it was just gone overnight. So that led me in. I'm trying to just kind of go through here, and you can stop me wherever if you want to dive further in.
Ahead. Go.
That led me into going to college. Got a semester into college. Was like, yep, nope, not for me. Got into an argument with my professor mid-class. Got up and walked out. Quit college right then and there, and went off to do sales. I got a job in sales, selling life and health insurance to businesses, so group life and health. And then one day figured out, all right, listen, I want to be my own boss. I want to work for myself. I want location freedom. The internet, that sounds like a good place, right? Let's try there. So I went to Google, typed in how to make money online, and went down the rabbit hole. I don't know, red pill, blue pill, took it, went all the way in, and down the rabbit hole we go. And that led me to social media and getting involved in social media. And the thing that I discovered very quickly about social media is right before I started social media, I tried to sell products online with ads. Someone was like, hey, it's just as easy. You buy some traffic, you send them to an offer, you make money. It's great. I'm like, sweet. My friends all like Harry Potter. I'm going to sell a Harry Potter book. So I bought, $500 worth of ads, or $1,000. I don't remember what it was, about under $1,000 worth of ads. Did not sell a single book. Was like, this sucks. That's all my money. I have no money in savings anymore. What am I going to do? And then I kind of looked around, and I had this realization of like, oh, people that kill it have audiences. people that make lots of money are famous. And while most people think that people get famous because they sell things, I was like, what if I got famous to sell things? And that was kind of like my in. And I started growing followers on Instagram, started growing and managing. I grew and managed almost 4 million. When I sold my first company to my business partner at the time, when we did that together, we just did affiliate marketing and like online stuff through Instagram. And then, the rest is history from there. And for those of you that don't know, I sold that company. I started a software company, built that up to about 8,500 monthly users, sold that company, had, side gigs in middleman sales, practice sales, and personal branding, growing my audience in the process. And then a year and a half ago, I started Think Different Theory. And, now we build and manage audiences, for entrepreneurs. We've done 6 million followers, grown and managed on social media. We started tracking revenue of our clients and students about 2 years ago, and we have confirmed trackable. So this is not including testimonials of people like, yeah, whatever, confirmed trackable stuff that we've been able to identify. Our students have done over $2 million in revenue, and I've done about $2.5 million in sales.
That's awesome, man.
So there's that kind of very, very long and short. Lots of stuff happened in there, obviously.
I love it.
But that's the highlight reel, if you will.
I love it, man. It's funny you talk about driving cross country, and my family, we've moved like 41 times since I've been alive. 10 of those since I've been out of my parents' house.
Oh my gosh!
And people always ask Josh. They say, "Are you military?" I say, "No, we're just gypsies." Like I don't know why we moved. We just moved a lot. So I like that part of your story. Josh, talk about
that's funny.
Talk about how I remember. So I've been following you for probably 2 years. I heard you on the Habit Hacked podcast with Alex Engar.
Yeah, shout out Alex Engar.
Shout out Alex Engar. They're amazing. And I was like, man,
so awesome.
I actually had you in my cell phone back then. I was like, oh, I need to reach out to Josh one day and see if he could be on a podcast. And so then I started following you. And so I guess it was last year where you switched over from your huge Facebook group that you had and then rebranded everything to Think Different Theory. How was that scary? I mean, what went through your mind when you started that?
I didn't want to let go of my Facebook group for the longest time because my Facebook group was my audience. It was my source of income. It was my source of revenue, 35,000 members in its peak. I mean, like that's a lot of people. And I was live in there every single day, creating content in there every single day. But really, the reason I actually ended up letting it go and was able to is when my brother did pass away, I neglected the group, and I had to because a lot of other things going on in life at the time. And I kind of just set business off to the side. And for me, that was kind of the last straw of, I made it work without a group for several months. I can actually make it work without one. And it wasn't that I didn't need a group because I still have a group now. I have another group and it does very well. And I highly encourage people to go do groups. But my big group was called Social Media for Entrepreneurs. I don't teach social media. I teach audience growth, which is a very, very different thing. And a lot of people are like, hey, you could just rebrand it. You could do it. And I could have. But at that time in my life, I was lost. At that time in my life was a wreck. And I don't really know how else to say it. I'm not trying to be dramatic. I wasn't on the pits of despair as far as financially was concerned. I had money in the bank. That was fine. But my brother had passed away, tons of personal issues, really bad mental space, going through a selling of the company with my business partner with Vivid, and things it's not that they went poorly there, but just when everything that was going on in my life, I was holding the company back from, its potential and things, just so many things going on. Creating content for a Facebook group just wasn't a top priority anymore for me. And I didn't want to teach social media anymore. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And since I didn't know what I wanted to do, I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. And so I was like, I don't know what I want. I'm just going to shut it down. And so I still have the group. It's still just sitting there. But I made the conscious decision to do what I felt was best for me and serve from a place of integrity, serve from a place of what did my heart really, what was I really going after? What did I really want to do? And when I created the Facebook group, this might sound a little bit weird to some people, but I'm very much big into mindset, into energies, into believing that where you create something is important. And when I created that Facebook group, my goal with that Facebook group was to teach people how to get rich and famous. That is not what I teach people how to do anymore, right? I was coming from, hey, I was a farm boy that grew up making $25,000 a year, struggling, and my parents are amazing. They were awesome. We never knew hunger. My parents were awesome. But when I went out on my own, ramen noodles and McDonald's, baby. That was my life, right? Sure. I was barely making ends meet. And so all I wanted to do was get rich and famous. And so at some point I realized, I can get rich and famous. That's not that hard. Now, what do I actually want to do with my life? Like now what's the impact that I want to have? And so I looked at this group and I went, yes, I could use it. Yes, I could rebrand it. Or I could actually just come from a place, start over and go, hey, if you want to come over here and follow me, I don't really know what I'm doing right now. Right. I know how to make money. I know that I want to make an impact. I know that I want to have a bigger, place in this world. I want to go and do these things. But like right now, like I'm not exactly sure what that looks like. And a lot of people came over and kept following me. And then from there, we launched the podcast and grew the movement that way. And now it has turned into, we have more downloads of the podcast than we do members of that Facebook group. You know what I mean? Like by far. And so it has ended up being this very beautiful thing. But it was very, very scary. It was very scary to let go of because I made all of my money from that group up until that point.
Right. Yeah. So I remember when you were going through that, and I want to ask you about a story. I don't remember all the details, but I know you posted or talked about this one time where you were literally laying on the floor in your apartment and just kind of looking up and you're just like, hey, something's got to change.
Yeah. So after I sold my company with Josue, my first Instagram agency, I was like, sweet, I just made the most amount of money I've ever made in one day. This is awesome, right? Type deal.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew how to sell things, right? And I was like, all right, sweet, that sounds great. And so I kind of was like, I'm the personal brand guy, right? And I'm going to teach you how to sell stuff. And what I realized was I found this very unique, and I've talked about it, I actually did a podcast on it. I found this unique opportunity where I felt like half of my audience had problems and the other half of them had solutions for it, but they didn't know how to talk to each other, right? Yeah. And so I was like, sweet, if I can become the middleman, I can make a lot of money that way. And I could, and I did. The problem with that is I was completely full of myself. I was very egotistical. I was a 23, 24-year-old hotshot, right? That had, think about it. I grew up in a very strict, conservative, homeschooled farm family in the Midwest, okay? When we talk about like follow the rules, respect your elders, like things like that, now you go from that to, hey, you have more money than you've ever had before and you have absolutely no authority and people follow you. Not a great combination, right? Unless you're grounded, and I wasn't. And so I went and I started realizing, holy crap, I can make a ton of money real quick. And so I made $10,000. And then the next month it was like 20. And then the next it was like 30 and then 40 and then 50 and then 60. And by the end of 2017, I am sitting at this point where I'm like making a lot of money, right? But it was me and me only. I had no team. I had no systems. I was working literally 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like people, it's just so funny to me. Like people are like, think they're workaholics and they like, will like go out to the bar and have a drink on a Friday night. That was not a thing in my life. There was no Netflix. There was no TV. There was no video games. There was no friends. There was no girlfriend. There was no family time. There was no church. It was work, right. 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. Right. And so I remember this was around Christmas time, end of 2017, thinking to myself, something has got to break. I just don't know what. Because even though I was making an astronomical amount of money for someone like me, I was spending an astronomical amount of money. Not only because I had client stuff to fulfill and I was having problems left and right, super high stress. I was just buying my way out of problems, right? And then on top of that, I was so insecure. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. I was this kid. And I was flying first class to Miami, to Vegas. I was staying in 5-star hotels. I was trying to look cool. I was trying to live the lifestyle, right? Like I was like, this is all I know, right? Like I don't know how to do anything else, right? Sure. And so I remember thinking that in like November, and then like something's got to break. And then after Funnel Hacking Live 2018, it was Orlando. I get home. I flew from there to Chicago. I was supposed to 35th floor apartment. I was supposed to sign 35th floor dream apartment overlooking the Chicago Bears Stadium, Chicago on the other, the other side. Like we're talking dream. It was like $4,000, $5,000 a month for rent, like something stupid, right? I was like, something inside of me, and I believe that it was just the Spirit of God, but like whatever it was, I thank God for it. Something inside of me said, don't sign that. Like, do not sign that lease. And I was like, all right, whatever, cool. I'm so miserable anyway, whatever. I'm going to go off of this gut. It's the only thing that seems right. I fly home, and it was that week that I broke. And that was kind of like my crashing point moment. And at that moment, I realized that I was completely depressed. I was completely overwhelmed. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And that even though I was making a ton of money, I had tons of money in savings and whatever, that this was an absolutely unsustainable lifestyle. And I opened up my computer from bed. I sent an email to all my clients. I canceled almost all of them. I think I actually kept one. I said I canceled all. I think I kept one that I made like 3,000, went from like make $50,000 a month to 3,000, refunded tens of thousands of dollars in client services that month, and just bawled my eyes out. And I rolled out to it's not this apartment, but I rolled out to the door and I opened it up and I just laid on the floor and I cried and I smoked a cigarette. And I was like, this sucks. I thought I had a good mindset. I thought mindset was the key to success, right? Like that's what I thought. And clearly I don't understand what mindset is then. And so that led me down this journey. And, thankfully I didn't pick up the habit of smoking or anything like that. That would have been terrible. But like, keep in mind, I've never smoked a cigarette in my life up until that point, right? Like that is like I'm not bashing anybody that does, but like that was like the furthest concept. Like if my family would have known, my friend, they would have been like, oh my gosh, something's terribly wrong, right? And so for the next 7 months from that moment, I lived off of savings. I still produce content here and there, but I lived off of savings and I studied the mindset and I read Psycho-Cybernetics and I read Joe Dispenza and I studied quantum physics and Tony Robbins and, everybody else out there that had something. And that's what led me into this thing of the mind. And I was like, oh. That's how that works. Yeah. And that's kind of the story from there.
Sure. Awesome. Do you think, you said you had a lot of problems. Do you think that's because you were doing it all on yourself and you didn't have a team?
I mean, yeah, but that wasn't the root problem.
Sure.
That was a byproduct of my stress for sure. But the problem was that I didn't have a team. But why didn't I have a team? That was the problem, right?
Your mindset.
Right. Yeah,
awesome.
For sure.
Well, are you still working 18-hour days?
No, I work 5.5 days a week. I take Saturdays off instead of Sundays, but then I do, so like church is Sunday morning and then I work Sunday afternoons. So Saturday is my rest for God. And I, whatever Leah, my girlfriend's name is Leah, whatever she wants for that day, it's her day, her and I, we go and sometimes I'll just sleep in super, super late and we'll hang out. And sometimes we'll meet up and go for walks, whatever that looks like. But, so I work, take all the Saturday and Sunday mornings off. And then I get a jump start on the week Sunday afternoon and I work Monday to Friday. Yeah.
Awesome. Love it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Josh, what do you think, what skills have served you well in building your business?
I mean, mindset hands down that's not really a skill. I mean, it is the skill, but like, it's kind of, we can dive into that further, but from an actual like skill of what you're asking, I'd say sales, storytelling, and audience building. And audience building and storytelling, I think, go very much hand in hand, and sales as well. I mean, storytelling kind of goes with both of those. But I think the reason I've been able to take risk and the reason that I don't have any fear ever when it comes to like money is I can sell. And when you know how to sell when you know for complete and 100% certainty that if you believe in the product that you are selling, that you can sell it, that becomes a very, very, very liberating and free feeling. Because if I were to go and coronavirus were to, something were to happen and I don't know, the government seizes all my funds and all my money, right? And I wake up one day and I have $0 in the bank account, right? For most people, that would be an absolutely crippling, life-changing, astronomical problem, right? And for me, I'd be like, okay, I've got 30 days until my bills are due because I can put it all on a credit card and I've got to come up with funds and I can come up with an awful lot of money in that time frame. Now, that's not how you operate, but there's this safety net now of no matter what happens, I can go and sell something. And it's a double-edged sword because eventually when you grow a team, you have to hand things off and all of a sudden you're not the one producing revenue anymore and all this, but when you're starting out, what has gotten to me of where I'm at today is number one, learn to sell. Number two, grow an audience. And I would almost flip the two. I would almost say an audience is more important, almost. But I still think that you do need to learn the basic fundamentals of selling to be able to grow an audience. So.
Sure, absolutely. I think I want to talk about what you said a little bit about growing an audience because I have someone in my group that I help people write and self-publish books, and she said, "Well, nobody's buying my book," and I said, "Well, do you have an audience?" And she's like, "No," and I said, "Well, I mean, if you're not Michael Hyatt or right. Russell Brunson, and you can put a book on a website, but nobody's coming to it." And so, I love what you talk about, and I know, and I love that you have built those audience, so you can talk about that.
Yeah. The audience part of it is like the internet's this weird place because they think that followers means money.
Right.
But like followers are just potential customers, right? But like, if you have an audience around the wrong person, or like not like, you're not going to make any sales just from an audience. You got to be really intentional about your audience. And so like what I ask people to look at is like, before you grow an audience, there's got to be a reason. There's got to be a reason that you're going to grow this audience, right? Like, what is that? And what I tell people is, yes, we all know that content is the key to growing an audience. Yes. But like, there's two types of content out there. There's people that create content and content is their product. And then there's people that create content where it's not. You and I are not creating content as our product. Most people are not creating content as their product. Logan Paul is creating content as his product. Casey Neistat is creating content as his product. Why? Because that's literally what they sell. When they go and do brand deals, they're like, hey, we get millions of viewers, sponsor us, right? Like, literally their product is their content, right? For you and I, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, our content is not there to get followers. Our content is there to educate our followers. Mm-hmm. Our content is there to educate our audience. And yes, you need that content in order to have an audience. But the first thing that we need to look at is, why are we trying to build our audience? And if you're an entrepreneur, you're like, I don't know, I want to make sales. Okay, then that's your reason. You want to make sales. So let's dive a little bit further. What are you selling? Who's your ideal customer? And then it always comes back to like, what is that problem that you're solving? That's ultimately the reason. But most people don't know. Most people don't actually know the problem that they're solving in their business.
Yeah.
They don't actually know that. If I were like, what is the very, very clear pinpoint problem? And somebody asked me this, probably 6 months ago, a year ago. I don't remember exactly when it was. It was before the world trip. And I thought my product, or what the problem that I was solving, was lack of Facebook groups. I was like, people need Facebook groups. That's not true. I was completely wrong on that. The problem that I am solving was lack of customers, right? People were spread out. They had no way to build an audience of loyal, engaged people. It didn't matter if it's a Facebook group or a podcast or a YouTube channel, Instagram, it doesn't matter. The problem that I solve is lack of a loyal audience that's ready to buy your customer. People don't have, go back to your lady that has the book. She does not have a loyal audience that's ready to buy her book. So she can have the best book, best product, best service in the entire world. Nobody there to buy it. That's the problem that I solve, right? But most people don't know that problem. Most people are like, I sell Facebook ads. I help with lead generation. Okay, lead generation, not really your problem, right? Like, lots of people know how to get leads. What's the real problem? Okay, the real problem is people are unable to get their ideal customer consistently through their door. That's the problem, okay? So I solve the problem of getting high quality customers consistently through your door. I don't solve the problem of customer acquisition, right? You know what I mean? Like, you got to be super specific. And then once you have that, now you can build an entire audience around that idea, right? So, and that messaging is going to get broader and broader and broader and broader and broader as you grow. But for now, you got to get super specific. Now, you don't have to be pain-based problems. It could be desire, right? Maybe your whole thing is, I want a six-pack, right? And you're going to build your whole audience around that. But like, there's got to be this pain or problem and solution desire that you're building this around. And so when you're building audiences, figure out what that is, figure out where those people are, figure out the message that you're going to tell to them, figure out the story that you're going to use to go portray that message, and then create content around that. And you're going to have no problem getting people to come follow you.
For anyone starting a business, writing a book, just listen to that last 2 minutes about 5 times. Don't listen to anything else ever again after this, and you can go write your book and make your business work. So absolutely.
Yeah, and just know, like, just always come at everything from your customer's perspective, right? Like, if your book is an autobiography, then you get to write it however you want. But also know that if you're writing an autobiography, either A, nobody's going to read it, or B, you're going to have fame already, or C, you're going to have big pockets, right? Like, that's just but like, for most of us, we're trying to serve our customers. So think about it from their eyes. Go, well, my customer can't see my offer. Well, is your offer placed in a place where your customer goes? Well, yeah. Okay. Well, then they can see your offer. Well, they don't buy. Okay. Well, does your offer speak directly to your ideal customer? Yeah. Well, does it? Well, maybe this is confusing. So no, right? Yeah. Like, here's where you want them. Here's where they are. Start here, follow the process, find the bottleneck, solve the bottleneck, keep going, solve any more bottlenecks, and you will. Like, that's all it is, right? People overcomplicate success, like way, way, way too much. They think people don't want to buy because they don't like me or because I'm not good. No, Nobody cares about you, right?
That's right.
And people are like, oh, Josh, that's so mean. I'm like, no, that's so freeing. Yeah. Nobody cares about you. So as long as they don't care if you're tall or short or black or white or young or old, or if you can solve their problem, there are somebody, yes, there's politics involved in certain areas, but there's always someone that's like, yo, you can solve my problem. I don't care who's selling me my iPhone. I want my iPhone, right? It just doesn't matter, right? Or this pen or the case or the course, just solve my problem.
Yeah.
And so when you think about that, and then you get your ego out of the way, the reason people think that nobody cares about them is because their ego's in the way. Their ego says, oh, I'm important and people don't care about me. They should. No. People only care about you given reason to. Don't overcomplicate success. Look at it and go, okay, here is my customer. Here is the desire that they want. I need to be able to provide them a solution. It doesn't matter if it's you or the other person or whatever. If you have a solution and people are like, well, I'm not good enough. Okay, then you're not good enough then. Okay, fine. So go become good enough. Like I'm not good enough to run a $1 billion company, right? Russell is. But if I wanted to run a $1 billion company, just do the things that it would take for me to become a $1 billion company. I would take the actions. And by default, if I simply took the actions that are necessary to run a $1 billion company, I would then go and run a $1 billion company because Russell just did the actions, right? Yeah. So if you're like, I'm not good enough to, like, I don't know how to solve their problem. Okay, learn. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't take, most problems in life don't take a super genius. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm a physical therapist. I tell people all the time, it's not rocket science. I just went and learned how to do this. It's just like everything else. You just learn it. It's a process. Oh man, I love that. I think that's very simple, but yet very hard because people do not take the action. And that's where the hard part comes in.
Well, and people don't take the action because their brain is wired to not take the action.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, so yesterday, I want to tell you, do you know who Chandler Bolt is, Josh? So Chandler Bolt's like the self-publishing person. He runs self-publishing school. He's got an amazing podcast. I think his business is about $12 million a year. I may be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But anyway, doing good. So Will Boyd got his assistant's cell phone number yesterday. So Will Boyd knows I want to talk to him. He texts me and says, send this person a Facebook message. He said, no, forget that. Send her a text message. Tell her you got this from a friend of yours in podcasting that Chandler may be interested in hearing, doing interviews, and say, hey, I'm sorry if this isn't okay. So I did exactly what he told me. Yesterday at 5:15 p.m., I interviewed Chandler Bolt on this podcast.
That's awesome.
Just because yeah, thank you so much. But he took action, and then he's coaching me, so I took action because I don't want to hear him gripe at me later. But I mean, that's what it is. You just have to take action. If they say no, who cares? I didn't know him anyway. And it's like if you would have told me no, it's not a big, it's not the end of the world. Just have to keep going.
People get too wrapped up in thinking that it is the end of the world, though. Like it's because it's scary. It's this unknown thing, and we've been programmed that a no is a failure for some reason, right? Like, well, guys, I've taken my shots from some big name people and gotten turned down and rejected, right? I mean, come on, you shoot your shot and you do the best you can, but it's because people aren't living out of integrity. They're not being true to themselves. Right. Like, listen, if you were just true to yourself, you'd never change your path in life. Yeah. Right. Like, because like it either works or it didn't, but if it didn't work, you're like, well, it's still me. So I'm still going to just keep trying until I figure it out. Yeah. Right. Like you just live in a way that's true to yourself and continue to learn and continue to do that. And eventually it will come through and you'll be able to manifest that out. So I think that's super important. Like understanding skills are important, but like skills are worthless if you don't have the mindset to go and apply them correctly.
Absolutely. You and I both have grown up with people and been in business with people or worked with people that had more talent than us, better opportunities, but you wouldn't let them, say for a doctor, you wouldn't let them treat your family because you know that it's not there from their heart. It's not integrity. It's just was talent.
Yep.
So yeah, I 100% agree with you, man. Well, hey Josh, last couple of questions. What resources would you recommend to other people building businesses that want to be successful?
Well, I mean, the Secrets trilogy, .com Secrets, Expert Secrets, Traffic Secrets from Russell. I mean, those books are probably, and Russell's done a phenomenal job of making them the blueprint of where we all need to just follow. I think that's really, really well. The other book that I highly recommend, from a sales perspective and understanding how people think is a book called Influence. The Psychology of Persuasion. It's one of my favorite books of all time. And it teaches you about how people think, and it teaches you how people are persuaded. And when you start to understand this, and you start to understand this in through the eyes of your customer, it really, really helps with a lot of things. This is one of the most powerful books that I've read. And then from a mindset side of things, I would say that this Psycho-Cybernetics is my favorite mindset book of all time. It's the best one. And then I have resources as well. I wrote something called the Mind Shift Playbook.
Yeah.
It's a free guide, 67 pages or something like that. And it's 5 sections, a 5-part process to rewire your brain and have your default setting be success. It has 5 sections, 5 video trainings, 5 pieces of homework, instructions, and everything in there. Really, really good. If you go to thinkdifferenttheory.com/playbook, you can get that for free. There's like a whole membership area in there. It's like really sweet. It's like a freaking $500 product, but it's free. So that, and then I have a sales guide as well that it talks a lot about what's in this book actually, but it's just done in a way to help people that sell online, like how to sell their higher ticket offers, $1,000 to $20,000 offers, sell those online. salesandmindset.com/free sales guide. www.salesandmindset.com/free sales guide, and you can get that for free as well.
Got it. Awesome. I'll put both those in the show notes. And you're the second person to recommend Influence. I think I have it in my closet. If I don't, I'm ordering it tonight because 2 people recommend it.
It's Robert Cialdini he's a master persuader. His book Persuasion is really, really good as well. But it breaks down how people think and work. And once if you take this book and go, I wonder if this book works or not. But if you go and you take this book and go, okay, this book is correct. Let me find where he's talking about in here in all the successful marketing messages. You will find in all the successful marketing messages that it has elements every single time of what's in this book. And so you go, okay. And then you start to see the patterns and you go, oh, all right, well, I didn't do that in that email. So I got to add that here. I got to add that here. I have made so much more money from email marketing and in my sales messages on landing page after reading this book, just by understanding his sales psychology.
Awesome. I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it this weekend. Oh my gosh. I can't wait. Josh, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, dude. Of course.
Awesome. And so Think Different Theory podcast, what days does it publish? Where can we listen to it?
thinkdifferenttheory.com/listen. thinkdifferenttheory.com/listen. You can go subscribe there on your favorite platform. It'll bring up the tab. We publish episodes Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Typically, Mondays are a solo episode, just me. Wednesdays, Fridays, we have interviews. However, over the next probably 2 months or so, we're going to have quite a few more solo episodes, just because since the coronavirus is here, we're doing a lot more hands-on teaching about how to launch audiences, how to do sales, and things like that. And so we're kind of adjusting the messaging just for now to kind of work through this time to help business owners. And then once we kind of come through this here over the course of the next probably 3, 4, 5 months, we'll switch back to more interviews as well.
Perfect, Josh. That's awesome. Guys, please go listen to Josh's podcast. He's phenomenal. He knows what he's talking about, and he actually cares and has a servant's heart. So that's a big deal for me. So Josh, thanks
so much, Jeremy. Absolutely, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome.